What's up, guys? I'm Colby Person. Today we're on the streets of New York City. We're gonna see which one are New Yorkers more likely to give to, a guy asking money for his family or a homeless man asking for drugs and alcohol. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Friends, the video you just saw and the main themes of what I share with you today are taken from the writings of Dr. Chris Garada, one of the priests at St. Michael and All Angels Episcopal Church in Dallas, Texas. And here's what we learned from him. Today's gospel lesson finds Jesus talking about prophets as he fends off a group of Pharisees. Twice Jesus talks of prophets and how Jerusalem, the holy city itself, kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. This provocative gospel passage begs the question, what is a prophet? In our Christian tradition, prophets are understood to be people who speak and teach the Word of God. Although Jesus is so much more than a prophet, Jesus is connected to the prophetic tradition that he inherits and that continues even today. Prophets come in many shapes and sizes, and they speak about many different ideas, but the one thing that they have in common, according to Jesus, is that their truth is quickly rejected by those who have a stake in maintaining power and the status quo. You see, prophets challenge the prevailing authority structure. Prophets speak and teach about God's truth and about God's power, and that threatens the truth and power of the day. In Jesus' time, he threatened the religious authorities and their control of how the people were to understand God. Jesus questioned the integrity of those in power, challenging the power structure they worked so hard to create that centralized authority and wealth in the hands of a select few and made the common citizen feel powerless. Being a prophet might sound like a daunting role, one that is filled by someone else, certainly not people like you and me. But what if being prophetic was simpler than you thought? What if being a prophet was not something God left up to those with the loudest voices, but rather what if God was calling each one of us to be prophetic in our own unique way? Prophets are just people who teach others about the Word of God, but teaching happens everywhere, and most often in the classroom of everyday life. We know either through research or just common sense that people, and all people, are looking to those around them to decide what to do and how to live. A prophetic life does not have to be a complicated or complex one. A prophetic life, a prophetic witness, simply has to be grounded in the truth. Now, let me be fair with you. A prophetic life is not an easy life. Consider the story of the video we just watched. We live in a world where people often choose to support destructive behavior. We live in a world where too often cynicism is celebrated and hopefulness is derided. The status quo raises up and rewards self-centeredness rather than compassion. Our broken world needs prophets, and God has sent you and me to make a change. We're being called to bear witness to the radical truth of Christ, a truth that is as prophetic and vital and threatening and hopeful today as it was 2,000 years ago. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating that you hand out money to everyone you may encounter on the streets. Sometimes that action is actually more harmful than it is helpful. Here in Clarksville, we have several different groups and organizations to which you can make monetary donations that may be more helpful to those who are legitimately in need than just handing out money over to those folks who may be dealing with addiction issues or mental illness. The most powerful thing I find in the video is not that the woman gave her money to the man and the little girl, although that certainly was a sacrifice on her part. But the power for me was in her asking if she could pray for him. And in that simple act, the exchange between them was transformed from an act of charity to an act of prophetic love. You have a prophetic voice to share with the world. Whether you have a generous heart willing to give your last dollar to someone who needs it more than you do, or you have the courage to influence your neighbors in positive and hopeful ways, you have a prophetic voice, and God is calling you to make your voice heard. No act of love is too small, and no witness of hope is too small.